Okay, this is going to be a quick tutorial to show you how to get a stock shirt going in SineSpace. The first thing I've got is my Unity editor is open. My screen may look different than yours. That's because you can change and move around the interface any way you want to. Just to give you a very quick working tour of what I've got here. This is my main scene view. And then my hierarchy, which is all the stuff that is in the scene. Over here is my inspector, and then down on the bottom I've got my project folders, which is assets and all of the different subfolders there. And then over here I use this little section here to show console errors and then also just other little goodies and things that I do. You don't need to worry about making your screen look like mine. All you need to do is just understand, why my screen might look more or less crazy than yours. The first thing you need to do is in your Unity project, if you haven't already done so, you're going to add the space pack. You do that with the assets menu, import package, custom package, and then you go to wherever it is that you have downloaded your stuff for SineSpace. What the editor pack. I've got mine already installed. Various patches, whatever, but you would use whichever version of the editor pack you're installing, install that first and go through those steps. Once that's done, then you have a space menu. In your space menu, you'll go to upload settings. Click on that, and here you will be prompted to enter your account information. Mine's already entered, but you would type in your login info and then actually log in. From there, you can type in a couple of pieces of information that will save you time later. You can type in your name or your brand name. You can also drag in a little icon for your brand icon. You can put your little copyright information there if you like. And the benefit of doing that stuff there is it makes it easier later when you're adding new items or adding additional items to your inventory and to your shop. But anyways, that is the space upload settings, and you need to have that information filled in order to be able to upload anything into space. Or at least you have to have logged in, and it'll show your creator key, which I'll be blurring out here since that's my unique identifier. Once you have your space upload settings, the first thing you want to do is you want to add the avatar. To do that, you can dig around here and look through, I think it's an artist project or someplace in here, but to be honest, the fastest way to do it is to go right here into the project setting or the project panel, and in the top right, you'll see a little search box. I'll type in male, and you'll see here that the 2015 female and male and the 2017 female and male are there. We want to use the latest version. We want to use the 2017 male, and we just click and drag that up into the scene. And now we've got an avatar. We double check to make sure that it is at a 0, 0, 0 position. The pivot point is at 0, the rotation is at 0, and that the scale is at 1, 1, and 1. If you have it set to something different, then your clothes will rig at an odd angle, or they'll be resized, or all sorts of other goofy stuff. The next thing that you want to do is you should make a folder to put your work. As you can see, I've already got a lot of stuff I do in Unity, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I will go ahead and just make a new folder, and we'll call it create new folder, and we'll call this clothing tutorial. Unity takes a second to make that folder, and off we go. Okay, so once we've created the clothing tutorial folder, we want to go ahead and scroll down and go to sample art. This is stuff that was installed when you added the editor pack. Go to clothing, and then inside that you'll find avatar art and clothes and t-shirt templates. And this is going to have the generic t-shirt that is in the editor pack. Keep in mind, it is old and it is not really optimal. it might have been made for an earlier version of the editor pack, and it might not have seen much attention in a while. So we're going to take, we don't want to take the male t-shirt, we want to take the male t-shirt unskinned HD. And we're going to drag that up into the hierarchy. And boom, you're going to see, we're going to see the t-shirt now is on the avatar. Now let's take a look at this thing here. Normally, when we bring a model in, it's not already in a nested sort of a setup. Yeah, it looks like this is kind of messy. First things first, I'm going to take this male t-shirt 001, which you'll see is nested. It's underneath this game object for unskinned HD. And I'm going to just break this prefab and take it out. It's going to come up and tell me, hey, this is going to break my prefab instance. That's okay. I'm going to hit continue, and you'll see first that it moves this up out of that container, and also this stuff goes from being blue highlighted, which means that it's a prefab, and now it's black, which means it's not set to any sort of prefab. I'm going to take this empty game object container, since I no longer need it, and I'm going to remove it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see my male t-shirt 001, and it looks like everything's okay. It's rotated properly, it's organized, it's still at a 0, 0, 0, or it's a zeroed out pivot point, and everything seems to be okay. I do want to fix this material, since the default t-shirt mat that's on here, as you can see, there are no texture maps, and it looks like it's kind of gray here. So first thing I'm going to do is click here, change the color to white, and then I'm going to take, I guess, this normal and occlusion, and we'll try putting that in here. If I take the normal map and drop it in, and then I take the occlusion map here, you'll see that when I take a look now, my t-shirt's got some wrinkles and stuff baked in. We can get fancier, and we can add our own, or texture and add our own albedo or the color map, or we could add metallics if we wanted to have some shiny reflective pieces. But I don't want to mess with that in this tutorial. We're just going to focus on getting the thing up here. I will leave it to you to figure out what you want to do for texturing and playing around with stuff beyond that. So I can close this. I got my male t-shirt. It's great, but I want to rename this so that I don't get it confused with the saved prefab. So I'm just going to click enter, or I should say hit enter on the keyboard, and that opens it up so I can rename, and I'm going to call this T-shirt test. And now I can go down to my clothing tutorial folder, and you make a new prefab really, really easily. You just click it and drag it on down here. It takes a moment or two. And then I will end up having my saved prefab here. And you'll notice my t-shirt test item now shows that it's blue in the hierarchy. That lets me know that I've saved this. And now I can go about the process of turning this into SineSpace clothing. To do that, first I'm going to just close these. You click on the triangle to hide them. I don't really need that information right now. So I'm going to click on Add Component. And if I start typing in clothing, as you can see, I've already got cloth in here from doing something before. You'll see clothing item settings. That's the important thing for making clothes for space. In here is it's a sea of tabs and buttons. Don't let it get confusing. Very, very easy to go with regards to basic stuff, and then after that, as you get more involved in things, you can dive deeper into other pieces. So that piece is here. Before I continue, I want to point out in the console, you notice that this is showing a couple of little errors in here. I'm going to hit clear, and as long as it clears out and it's empty, then you are okay. The only time you ever really run into a problem with your console, or you're running into a problem with your Unity project, is when you hit clear and errors still keep popping up. If that kind of thing does start happening to you, my recommendation would be to start asking in the chat, either on Discord, in the Makers Lobby channel, or in the Fashion Designers channel, or in World if you are on the developer chat. Anyhow, I've cleared those errors out, and I'm going to focus my attention back on here. First place you start is on the Fitting tab. You need to start by picking the base, or picking the skeleton type. And in this case, we're doing a men's t-shirt, so we're going to do base male. Next is the type. You can choose either rigged clothing or attachment. Since it's a t-shirt, it's going to be rigged clothing. If you're doing a hat or a purse or something like that, it would be down as an attachment. Next is fitting slots. And this is basically you're picking the layer and the slot that it uses. I've written a good piece on the wiki that will help you go through this in more detail. For the purposes of this tutorial, it looks like it's a close-fitting t-shirt, so I'm just going to choose that. And now for the slot that it uses, what you want to do is you want to pick the fewest number of slots that best describe that item. Don't pick everything, because basically what happens is that when your users put the piece of clothing on, is the clothing is going to take a look at what slots it's using, and it's going to kick off the other items that also use that slot. So if you did chest, right arm, right hand, and you did everything that could possibly interfere with that t-shirt, then when somebody puts that t-shirt on, it's going to push everything off or take all those other clothing pieces off. So if they had like an armband or a backpack or something, that could be a problem. I'm just going to hit chest. On shoes, for example, you would just do right foot and left foot. Anyways, that's where we're at. So I've picked the skeleton, made sure that it's clothing. I've made sure that the layer that best describes what type of thing I'm doing, and then I just pick the slot. That's all I need to do on this tab. This other stuff down here is all kinds of useful when you're doing more advanced stuff. But for, I'd say 90% of the stuff that you're going to ever upload and connect in space, you won't have to mess with these settings. The next tab to mess with is materials. This one is really, really simple. It's keep materials always is just a simple checkbox for yes or no. If you are only going to do one version of this, like I'm only just going to do this one t-shirt, then you use keep materials always. If you are doing something that is going to have a master item, and then you're going to do like 3 or 4 or 5 different color variations, then you uncheck that. And then when it prepares your model, it'll set it up so that it can use the color pattern system. For the purposes of this test, we're just going to keep materials always. We're just going to keep it super simple. Now on the rigging tab, we've got a bunch of different things here, and it can be very confusing. First of all, for basic stuff, you can ignore all of this. I think in a future editor pack, they're going to hide some of these things to start, because for the most part, you don't need to mess with them unless you're doing more advanced types of rigging. The only thing you really need to pay attention here when you're starting off is if you are doing LOD models, meaning you've got a high poly count version, a medium, and then a low poly count version, then you would actually drop in the 3 different models right here before you went any further. Since we're just working with this one basic t-shirt, we're all set to go. I'm going to hit convert to skin, and it's going to come up with are you sure you want to do this? We're going to click proceed, and it'll take a moment. Depending upon how complex the model is, or if you're doing multiple levels of detail or LOD models, it'll take longer, but it should be able to get done in a few seconds here. Now that that's done, you'll see that the model appears to be okay. you'll find that it shows that the important thing here is you're going to see skinned mesh information. You're going to see bone count 51 and bind poses 51. This should always be 51 for both of these. This means everything worked. If for some reason your model is rotated, sometimes depending upon where your model is coming from or what program you created your piece in, it might be rotated on one axis or the other. And you can use these buttons here to do a snap rotation of 90 degrees and fix whatever sort of goofy stuff might have happened from your model. We don't need to do that, so we're all set to go. Next, you'll see deletion zones and preservation zones. This is in case you need to do some manual overrides. If you've got, say, boots and you want to make sure that the feet don't poke through, or you've got chunks of the avatar might be poking through here, you could add a custom deletion zone or add a preservation zone and tell it, preservation zone tells it to keep the pieces of the avatar or keep the pieces of the clothing layer that are below it, and add a deletion zone is the opposite. It tells it to make sure you get rid of whatever is in this area. We don't need to mess with any of that stuff for now, so we're just going to skip it. Go right down here to prepare, and we click that button. This will take a couple of moments. It's basically now doing all of the stuff, and it's making sure to do all the things it needs to do in order to rig or connect this to the avatar, so that way when you upload it, it will bend and move with the person's body. And it'll also mean that it will turn things into what's is called in places like Second Life, it's called fitted mesh, meaning that mesh will then be able to adjust and change depending upon what their shape sliders are set to. And just like converting to skinned, this will take longer depending upon how complex your model is, or if you're doing multiple levels of detail. If you're doing multiple LOD models, this is one of those buttons that you click it and you can get up and go make a cup of coffee or grab a sandwich or something like that, like 5 or 10 minutes tops. But overall, this isn't going too badly. It's doing all its bits, and we'll see it in a moment. Okay, it's finally finished up, and now we're all set to go. As you can see, it's prepared. It's got all of its information here. It'll actually show you down at the bottom that it's stored information in here. We are set to go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save or update my prefab. Since I already saved it, I've got this here. I don't need to make another copy. I just want to apply the changes to that. So I scroll up to the top, and at the very, very top of the listing, above where the transform tool is at, you'll see the button that says apply. That takes a second, and it'll take all of the stuff that we've just done, and it will apply that and save that into my prefab. Once that button has pushed in, or it's gone back out, it's now back to everything is all set to go. If you another interesting and fun thing up here is if you happen to be navigating around, you're in 16 other folders or whatever, and I forgot where this thing lives, easiest way to get back to it is you come over here and hit select, and what that does is takes you right to your clothing tutorial and selects your actual prefab for you. One thing that I noticed, as you can see, more stuff has been added to my console. And one thing I see here, this is getting on the geeky / OCD stuff, is it's telling me that it took my auto skin result and it saved it into this file called t-shirt test here in my assets folder. I'm going to recommend, if you want to try and keep your project clean or organized, because stuff could get very confusing very quickly, is take that and just drag it over to your clothing tutorial file. You don't have to. It's perfectly fine where it is. I just like to keep that stuff all in the same bucket, so that way if I need to move anything, or if as my project gets more complex, stuff can get really messy really quickly. As you can take a look here, I was working on a tuxedo shirt over the weekend, and yeah, so that happened. So yeah, if you keep your things organized and keep it into folders, it becomes a little bit easier for you to manage. So anyways, I'm back here to my t-shirt test. I've got it's already converted to skinned and it's already prepared. And now what I need to do is I need to add the virtual goods component. So I click on add component, and now I'm going to start typing in virtual. And you'll see virtual good component. And now you've got another form with a bunch of different tabs and some red and some yellow alert icons. This is normal. You haven't broken anything. The folks at SineSpace or SineWave put these things in here just to let you know that these are important things that you have to fill out in order to be able to upload something into space. So we'll start off with one tab and just go across to the left, from the left to the right. On basic, you need to change the content type. It's generic. Well, we want to make sure that this is set to clothing. And that's set. Next, we want to pick a category. In this case, it's a t-shirt, so we want to go clothes, tops, shirts. Very simple. Content rating is everyone, teen, mature, adult specific, and 99% of the time, I would imagine that at least the stuff I'm making is going to be for everybody. Again, the default here is fine, especially for our test. On detail, this is where the three things you need to put in here is you need to put in a name, a description, and a brand for your item. So for the name, type in what this is. And I want you to take a note that this is going to do something weird here. I type in the first letter and it's kind of jumped the form a little bit and it's moved so my cursor's no longer there. That's annoying, but it's that's something that the forum is doing. It's not something that you did wrong, and if you don't pay attention to it, you'll be typing out a word and then you'll realize that it only caught the first letter. So get that first letter in, and then off you go. I'm going to go in here and give it a more descriptive name. Infernal t-shirt. Description can be anything. When you're working with an item at first, you start off with something really simple. You can put in whatever you like. If you're making something to be sold in the shop, this is where you'd put in the language that the customers are going to see. So you could say, oh, it's a cotton poly blend, or just whatever description you want to have and that you want your customers to see. And brand will be the creator brand that you release stuff under. I use either Black Opal Designs for the stuff that Black Opal and I put together, or I use Trilobite Design for my own stuff. And you'll see it did the same thing here. I got the first letter typed in and it lost the focus. You want to keep your brand to be consistent. Don't use a different brand for every item. I think that makes things confusing for customers, and also it helps. Keep using the same brand across stuff helps to let other people know that it's the same. You've got consistent levels of quality, and you've got better goods. And you'll also find too is that a lot of times, if a customer likes something that you've made, they want to buy more of your stuff, or they want to see more of your stuff. And so using that consistent brand across those lines, at least where it makes sense, works out. So you might have a clothing line for t-shirts, or you might have something more for dresses, or you might have a car brand or something like that. Make sure that you stay consistent on your stuff here. And I think you want to make sure that you update there's a page on the Curator site where you can put in the names of the different brands that you work with. That's probably going to be important from the SineSpace creator account program. I'm not going to get into all that stuff here. But anyways, I've just filled in these 3 blanks, and you'll notice here that as I'm filling these things in, those stop signs went away. Next, we're going to do pricing. And you'll see there's a checkbox for not for sale. If you check it, that means that when you upload it, it will go into your inventory, but it will not be something that's going to ever appear in the store. Uncheck it, and it'll go into your inventory, And then once it gets pushed to the live grid, then you will end up having it in the store as well. I don't want to sell this, so I'm just going to leave this check. For price in gold and silver, it's fairly self-explanatory, and it says if it's going to be sold, then basically you're setting the price. So how much, if somebody can buy this in the shop, how much can they buy it for? Price in gold, 100 gold is approximately $1 US. Price in silver, that's a promotional currency, so you can use whatever you like. If you set either one of these to 0, then you've essentially made the item free, because people will be able to buy that item for 0 of that currency. If you wanted to, say, sell this t-shirt for 10 cents, you would first uncheck the not for sale button. So now it's going to be for sale. You would set your price. It's going to be 10 cents or 50 cents or whatever you want to do. And then if you don't want to make it available for silver, you mean I made a great thing here and I want people to be able to shell out their money for it. I want to be able to actually earn money in space. To say that it's not available in that currency, you use -1. -1 tells the system not available that route. If you only want to make this available as a freebie or like a promotional item that people can buy with silver, then you would do -1 in gold and then say 100 pieces of silver. Whatever we want to do. I'm just going to click not for sale and leave it at 10,100. It's just going to be for my own inventory. For the purposes of this tutorial, you don't need to mess around in here, but you can also tell the system that you want to allow SineSpace to use it in promotions, and you can tell them the maximum discount. So if you are selling it for, say you're selling a shirt for 50 cents, say it's available for 50 cents, but you want to say, yes, you can use it in promotions, and then I'm going to say you can sell it for up to 50% off. That tells the folks at Sinewave Entertainment that if they are planning or putting together a sale, that they may use your item in a discount, and that they can discount up to that amount. If they only want to do 25%, that's up to them. But that gives them a pool of stuff that they can go ahead and put on deals and sales and discounts and specials and things like that. That's more of an upcoming feature. I don't think that they've used that yet, but that's what that's about. I'm going to not worry about it because this is not for sale anyways. Next is you'll see a yellow alert sign, and it says, hey, there's your store item icon is missing, and your inventory icon is missing, and your brand icon is missing. These are yellow alerts, which means that they are not crucial, but they are important. Actually, I think that if you were going to be uploading something and pushing it to the live grid, they're going to require that you have the artwork in here. For now, we don't need to mess with it. If you remember from earlier in the tutorial, so that you can specify what your upload settings are, you can specify the brand icon. So if I hit here and hit copy, you'll see that the Black Opal Designs logo shows up because I had that set up in my upload settings. I'll just leave that now for now. Again, this is just a scrub piece or a test piece. You don't have to put anything in here. Just know that the item icon is 430 by 430 pixels. It is a kind of a strange format, but that's the resolution that you need to resize it to. And then for the item inventory icon, that must be a 96 by 96 pixel icon. Also, it's a very slight, it's a bit of an oddball size, but it's important to get those right. This item inventory icon is going to be a little postage stamp that people see when they're looking at their inventory or they're looking in their wardrobe panel. The other icon, the other picture, is something they're going to see if they're shopping, or especially if they're shopping on the web. I'm going to leave that one for now. Next, we're going to go over here, and it tells us that the developer's name is missing, and the copyright declaration is missing. I'm going to say... and I'll put 2018... Oops. It did the same thing again. Some of these forms want to jump out. So 2018. Okay. That's been filled out, and now I can go over to upload. You use this if you're working on a new item. This is going to be 0 and it's going to be blank, and you're going to be all set. If you are picking up the pieces from a previous upload or something that you had worked on before, then you would take the resume ID or the item ID from that previous item and put that number in here. And then that would tell SineSpace's servers that the new thing you're uploading is connected to your existing thing. For our purposes, I'm just leaving it as is. I'm all set to go. And with that selected, t-shirt test selected on the upload panel, and I'm going to hit automatic submission. It's asking me if I'm ready to submit the item for processing and review. I'm going to hit upload item. It's going to save the item to the Curator database, which basically pings the server and it makes an entry into the database, and it gets catalog ID, which we'll see in just a second. And now it's going to ask me if I want to use the old uploader or the new uploader. Windows users, I don't believe, see this screen. This is something for Mac OS. I'm going to tell it I want to use the new uploader. And off it's going to go. You'll see it's got a little progress bar, which on my particular current installation isn't showing an accurate progress bar, but this little floater will happen. And if for some reason I needed to cancel it, I could do that. But it'll go ahead and do its thing, and then once it's finished, it will disappear. You'll notice that once it started the upload process, now over here on this upload panel, you'll see under status, it says that the item has been previously uploaded to the Curator, and it's telling you the Curator ID. This is basically, it did that little checked in with the server, and it got the number from the database, and so now this is the database item ID for that item. It automatically fills that stuff in here, and as long as I keep working on this piece from my prefab and my saved information, I never need to fool with this because it's automatically connected. Okay, so we've given it some time and we've gotten our emails. What you will see when you're done processing is you will see a message that says that your item is finished. If there's an error, it will tell you that there's been an error, and they will try and work on it again. At the present time, in March of 2018, they are running the processing queue twice for the current software as well as for a fallback. So you would see more emails than usual. In this case here, I have 2 different messages that say that the item is finished. So now I can hop in World. Make sure that I'm logging into the preview server. Click the login button. And now that I'm in World, I'm gonna let it finish loading up here. And I'll hide the chat, and I'm going to hit the outfit button. Great, it's we'll switch over to I'll call it my Vanguard tester, just a different outfit. In this case, I'm going to it's for a male clothing item. So I'm going to open up the wardrobe, and I think I'm looking for something. You'll see here that it says Infernal T-shirt, and it has no icon. And if you remember, when we did the upload on this, we did not load an image. So I'm going to click here. It'll take a moment to load, and you'll see that it's on here. I'm going to remove the other shirt, And now you'll see when I save and close, the clothing is now on my avatar. And then as I walk, you can see that the arms are moving with the body. Let's go ahead and click. We can look at it from the front. And it's gone ahead and rigged to that avatar. And so that's it. That's our first test piece. From there, once you've got your first test piece, then you can try replacing it with a model of your own creation, or you can go back to that t-shirt model and try making your own texture maps so that you can put a logo or a design on the shirt, and kind of go nuts and have fun with that. Hopefully you're all set to go. Have fun.